is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. We begin with new information on a Valley News Live investigation into the Fargo Police Department. Just hours after our story was published over the weekend, the city announced a special city commission meeting tomorrow morning for what it's calling an operational update on the Fargo Police Department. Our crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley has been looking into claims from current and former police staff regarding a toxic work environment. Since Police Chief David Zabolski took over in October 2020, 35 members of the department have resigned. In exit interviews we obtained, many cite issues with Zabolski and his leadership. Current officers tell us they're drowning in service calls, saying there were 6 or 7 officers on a shift throughout the entire city, when usually that number is around 12 or more. An annual performance review we obtained for Zabolski from November of last year showed few issues. Mayor Tim Mahoney said city commissioners and the public will hear from Police Chief Zabolski and his executive staff on the current status of departmental operations. The mayor adds he felt it was important to ensure these perspectives were heard and considered. Now, after our story was published yesterday, Shannon Roars-Jones came out with a statement of concern. She recently announced she's running against Tim Mahoney for the mayor of the city of Fargo.
These reports are alarming, as Fargo's finest are leaving by the dozens and our police presence could be down by nearly half on any given shift. I simply have one question. Where is Mayor Mahoney?
You can read our full investigation online at valleynewslive.com. A top city official in West Fargo is on unpaid administrative leave after being arrested over the weekend, and he's now out of jail. Assistant City Administrator Tim Solberg was arrested on aggravated domestic violence charges. Police were called to Solberg's home, and officers say they found a victim who was later treated at the hospital. As officers were arresting Solberg, they say he became uncooperative and resisted. Dispatch logs show Fargo police officers were on scene for nearly 4 hours. To the forecast, another change on the horizon. Let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson with a first look. Hutch.
Stacy, thanks so much, and good evening, everyone. As we take a look at the satellite and radar, we have plentiful clouds over the area. Most of us very quiet and very mild. Temperatures at or above freezing at times in the Southern Valley, but we do have a winter weather advisory for most of our eastern North Dakota counties and our Red River Valley counties of western Minnesota, as well as along the international border. Now, here's the thing. All of us are going to see wind as we go through the day, but some of us will see snowfall and some of us will see just blowing snow, drifting snow and reduced visibility. So here are a few things to keep in mind. Tuesday's impacts will be morning snow, mainly in the northern counties that will accumulate. We'll have some gusty winds over 40 miles per hour at times in the afternoon, and that's going to cause that blowing snow, which is going to make roads on the icy side. For many of us, even if we don't get new snow, also, we'll have some sharply falling temperatures ushering in some Arctic air. So that's what we're watching. But for now, let's take a look at your current conditions. There's the clouds. This is in the Grand Forks area. Temperatures pretty steady as we go through the next several hours. By 2 a.m., we're still in the mid-20s on a cloudy night. Check this out. In Grand Forks and our northern counties, along and north of Highway 2, snow begins in the overnight, and by morning it could accumulate. I'll have your hour-by-hour forecast details on that, but make sure you scan this with your phone and make sure you download that Valley News Live weather app. Will keep you ahead of the storm. Stacy, I'll have those details here in just a few minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Hutch. Cars were towed from downtown Fargo again last night as city crews work to keep up with snow removal. It's happening again tonight, so you'll want to be sure your vehicle isn't parked on any of the north-south streets. Snow removal starts at 2 a.m. and vehicles in no parking areas will be impounded. If you need to park downtown overnight, park on the avenues. President Biden returns to the White House this evening with some unfavorable poll numbers showing fewer Americans think he's doing a good job handling the pandemic. As COVID cases surge, some frustrated governors are looking for federal direction while others are going it alone.
Hi, how are you? Nearly 1 year in the White House, President Biden is not only still battling a pandemic, but now also public opinion of his administration's COVID response. A new CBS News poll shows the president's rating on handling the pandemic is down to the lowest point of his presidency, with just 36% of those surveyed saying the COVID response is going well. Americans also pointed to confusing guidance from the CDC.
Quite frankly, they're falling short in a couple of ways.
Maryland Governor Larry Hogan says he's frustrated with the lag time on promises.
The president announced nearly a month ago, before Christmas, that he was going to distribute these 500 million rapid tests out across the country, and so far we haven't seen any.
Others, like newly elected Virginia Governor Republican Glenn Youngkin, are dissatisfied with school mask mandates.
We are providing parents an opt-out.
Most school districts say they're following CDC guidance, so several in Virginia are vowing to fight that executive order as more of the youngest among us are now suffering.
A growing number of children are ending up in the hospital, with pediatric cases on the rise.
We have matched our worst Delta wave with hospitalizations, and then even more than that are clinic visits for what might be considered mild cases.
While Omicron appears to be receding in parts of the Northeast, health officials warn it could be weeks before new COVID infections peak nationally. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The White House says it's unveiling its website on Wednesday for Americans to sign up for those free at-home COVID tests. Some health experts are criticizing the CDC for suggesting schools now cancel some sports and activities. The agency is advising schools to cancel high-risk sports and extracurricular activities or hold them virtually. That includes football, wrestling, and band. They are pointing to the recent spike in COVID cases. The CDC director said it prioritized academics over athletics, but an infectious disease expert called the guidance unlikely, unreasonable, and unrealistic. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and voting rights advocates are demanding action from Congress. A bill to reform the election process faces long odds in the nation's capital, but as Skylar Henry reports, the president says the fight is far from over.
On this holiday marking his father's birthday, Martin Luther King III led a peace walk across Washington's Frederick Douglass Bridge. He called on Congress to pass stricter protections for voting rights.
If you can deliver an infrastructure bill for bridges, you can deliver voting rights for Americans. If you do not, there's no bridge in this nation that can hold the weight of that failure.
The bill would remove restrictions that Republicans say enhance election security. But with its passage in doubt, advocates say the nation is at a critical point.
We need to have protections at the polls and to make sure that we can get there safely.
The King family wants changes now, putting more pressure on Congress to pass sweeping voting rights reform to give more Americans access to the ballot and not allow Senate rules to stand in their way.
The unmitigated gall to hide behind cloture and the filibuster, two procedural hurdles. When black people turned the tide to get Joe Biden elected, it puts me beside myself.
Last Thursday, two moderate Senate Democrats, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, threw their support behind the legislation, but they do not approve of changing Senate rules in order for it to pass. Its failure would be a stinging blow to the president, who said it's not enough to praise Dr. King on this holiday. It's time for action.
We must commit to his unfinished work, to deliver jobs and justice, to protect the sacred right to vote.
The Senate plans to debate the voting rights bill on Tuesday, and the president says whatever happens, he'll continue the fight. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Speaking from the White House, Vice President Kamala Harris said the freedom to vote is under assault and said it's time for Senate to do its job and pass the voting rights bill. In the spirit of today's holiday and all that Martin Luther King Jr. has come to represent, the community is invited to attend an event at the Fargo Theater tonight. It's being organized by the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition and other community groups. The celebration will feature speakers, singers, dancers, and poetry. People from the community will also be recognized with Radical Change Awards.
Martin Luther King to me symbolizes the hard work that so many people put in, right? So many people invested into Martin Luther King and invested into his dream, which was larger than him and everybody else. And I think about the symbolization in Fargo, a place that is changing slowly but surely.
It all starts at 6:30 tonight. It'll also be live streamed if you'd like to watch it virtually. The Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce announced the keynote speaker for its 2022 Voices of Vision event will be Mike Rowe, best known as the dirtiest man on TV from the series Dirty Jobs. Rowe is now the country's leading advocate for skilled labor, and he's passionate about debunking myths and misconceptions about the trades. The chamber says at a time when our nation is feeling a workforce shortage, we're excited to bring Mike's experience and dedication to the stage. Voices of Vision is happening Thursday, April 21st at the Shack on the NDSU campus from noon to 1. Tickets are available now on the chamber website. Hope is fading for many as the child tax credit bill is stalled in the Senate. We'll bring you the latest later on Valley News Live at 4.
Warmer weather to start our week, but Tuesday brings winter weather back. Now, not all of us are going to get a lot of snow, but all of us will have impacts. Doyle, the weather cat, says it's time to pay attention. We'll have a look at your forecast coming up right after this.